Hi everyone, my name is Manuela. Today I'm gonna be talking about how to design engaging Slack apps in an event-driven world. What does that actually mean in more practical terms? You've probably seen the announcement for the open beta of our next generation of the Slack platform, and you might wonder how to bring users along in that journey by making those integrations engaging and interactive. And that's what this session will be all about. 7 through forward-looking statements. A little bit more about myself. My name is Manuela Caicedo. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm a product manager at Slack. My team focuses on platform interactivity, which means that we build the tools and frameworks to allow developers to bring interactive experiences to the users of Slack. A sneak peek into our agenda. First, I'll be talking through our Slack platform, an overview of what's new and how you can use it. Then I'll dive into Blockit, which is our UI framework for building interactive experiences. Finally, I'll talk about some principles that will guide you when designing functions, which are one of the core concepts of our Slack platform. So let's dive right in. As users make the shift to digital first, they might rethink how their tools work together. And the Slack platform is that engagement layer that allows them to streamline and automate those processes. Interactivity is what makes that experience engaging, tying all the steps together by guiding the users from one step to the next one. We have three main concepts in our platform. The first one is triggers, and this is how workflows are started. We have user-driven triggers like the one you see in the screen right now where the user is clicking to start the workflow. The second one is system-driven triggers, and those might be webhooks or any metadata-driven workflow. The third one is schedule triggers, and those might be daily, weekly, as your business processes need. Functions are the most basic building block within our platform. They're a single unit of execution. They're encapsulated so that they can be reused around different workflows. We have three main types of functions. The first one is Slack functions, and those allow you to automate things within Slack itself. That'd be create a channel, send a message, start a huddle. All of those are possible using Slack functions. Second, we have partner functions like create a Jira ticket, and those might be provided by the vendors that you already use and the tools you know. Third, we have custom functions, and those are the ones that we will focus on the most during this session, because those are the ones that you can actually customize, code in, and then build on so that they match the business processes that you're trying to automate, as well as make them interactive, which is the main goal of this session. Workflows are the end-to-end automation. They include one or more functions and are started by a trigger. Link triggers are a new concept in the next generation platform. They are very contextual because they are a single URL that can start a workflow. You can send them as a message and they will unfurl nicely as a card. You can pin them to a channel, and that will allow users to associate those actions with being in that channel, feel safe by clicking them, and then pass that context on to that link trigger so that the workflow can make use of the fact that this trigger was started in a certain channel by a certain user, and those can be taken in as inputs to cut down some of the work that the user might manually need to do. System events are what bring the full picture of the platform into a single channel in Slack. You might have multiple tools that are sending different notifications into a channel, and that allows users to be informed, collaborate, and most importantly, take action with those. Talking about actions, interactivity is what allows that. Make those notifications actionable by providing some of the quick actions that are related to that event that might have happened. In this case, we have an incident response. A new incident was created by someone in my team, and I get a few actions that I can do around that. I can create a new channel for it, I can escalate it, I can manage it. We talked about Slack functions, and something that I want to focus on are Slack interactive functions. These allow you to have a starting place when building interactive workflows. And we have two main ones. We have open form, which allows you to gather input from users by just specifying input types. And here we have an example of a form that is in iOS, because our open form function is built on Blockit, and Blockit is cross-device. It allows for the same look and feel across all of our devices. Then we have send message with a button, and this is a simple call to action that just outputs the value corresponding to the button that was clicked. So in this case, you're clicking acknowledge, and the action of that is that it outputs to the channel the fact that I was the one to click that specific button. Once you've tried out some of our Slack interactive functions, you might run into the need to build your own functions. And that's when you need formatted messages, you need to handle interactivity in a custom way, you need to have more complex interactions that might happen across multiple modals. In this case, my suggestion to you is to scaffold your app using the CLI, build your application logic using our SDK, and these are all of the new developer tooling that we're bringing on with this new Slack generation. Then at that point, you want to make it interactive using Blockit, and then use the data that you create using those interactions by putting it into a data store. And then once you're done and happy with your function, then deploy your code to Slack and take advantage of our infrastructure and security that comes with the new platform. So let's dive into Blockit and interactivity. These are the building blocks that you can use. It includes sections, media like images and video. And then you also have input types like address and description. In this case, in the top right, these are plain text. You might want to have multi-selects. All of these are the options that you have. Then you can put those blocks into two main surfaces within our new platform. Messages, which are very contextual, they happen in DMs or in channels, and everyone within that conversation can interact with those components. On the right, we have modals, and these are a pop-up surface where dynamic multi-step actions can happen, and it is very focused for a single user. If you don't know where to start with Blockit or you need some inspiration, Blockit Builder is a great tool for prototyping. You get the payload directly on the right, so you can just copy paste this directly into your code. And then you can also make use of our templates, which are really good for just getting inspiration and some best practices and possible layouts that might help you. So we've talked a lot about how to build UI using Blockit, but a main component of our framework is interactivity routing. And if you've built on our existing platform, you might know how those are routed into your app. So as block actions, which are just clicks, or view submissions, which are modal submissions, are sent to your app. In the new platform, the building block is a function. So all of the interactions are scoped to a specific function. And that means that every modal or every message that is posted by that function is associated with it, so that the interactions that users do on them will be routed to that function. So let's take an example here. We have a workflow with two functions. The first one is guiding the user through choosing their accommodations for a travel. And then the second one is an expense approval message to their manager to approve that business travel. The first function is doing views.open to open that modal for the user. As they click through, the Blockit framework sends block actions back to that function, and that's just the metadata surrounding the click. From that, your app might have logic in order to know what to do next, and call views.update to update the model with maybe just highlighting the choice that you made by clicking a button. At that point, the user is done and clicks submit, and then that sends a view submission event back to your function so that you have the full picture of what happened, you know the outputs of your function, and can call functions.complete success. At that point, the workflow moves on to the next function. That function is sending a message, and when that message is sent, it has the context of that second function, not the first one. The first one is already done, but it includes the inputs that are most likely outputs coming from that first function. So chat.post message posts some data around the travel request that was done by the requester. And at that point, someone in that channel, or DM in this case for a manager, can click approve. The function will get block actions with the metadata around that click and that interactivity payload. And then you can call chat.update to just update the message with the final decision and remove those buttons so that they're not interactable anymore. At that point, you know what the final decision around this travel is, and you can call functions.complete success. At this point, this sample workflow is done, but a more complex workflow might have things like conditional branching in the case where it was approved, then send it to a system of record or a booking system. In the case where it might have been denied, send a message back to the requester so they can restart this process. So what to think about when building these functions? We talked about the function being that smallest unit of execution of an app. And this is something that I want you to remember coming out of this session. We have three main principles that I think are important. The first one, quick actions. You want to provide users with some things that they can do within the context of Slack and what's right in front of them. Modularity is what encapsulates that logic and makes it reusable across multiple workflows. You want your function to do one thing and do it well. Then context is the inputs that you can take that you can use to streamline some of those processes. Call on some APIs. Know that the user in session is the one that you should use for that process. So going deeper into quick actions, we often differentiate the work that should be done in Slack using thin work versus thick work. And what does that mean? Thin work are actions that require little time, a few clicks, and those are very suited for being built in Blockit and be part of functions that can be used in workflows. Thick work is complex operations that might include custom user interfaces like a design software or very complex graphics. Many time-consuming steps can also be thick work. So you have a form with too many steps, and the user might want to take a break. And at that point, the focus has been broken. We also have the case where they need additional context from your third-party service. And all of those thick work actions should be still embedded within the Slack platform, but in a different way. You should send the user a URL that redirects them directly where they can do that action. And they can do that very focused in your specific system. So let's take a very basic example of a polling app and its requirements. Three main ones. The poll owner should have a link trigger, which I talked about, to build a poll and send it into their team channel so that the members of the channel can respond by clicking a button. As a member of the team, I should be able to click on that button and respond by starting the poll right within the context of the channel. As a poll owner, I should be able to view the results and close that poll. So thinking through the concept of modularity, you should split up that app into functions. And those pretty much mapped to the life cycle of that poll. You want to create it, you want to view the results, you want to close it. So all of these help you understand how the app should be broken down into the actions that are most atomic within your app. So let's take a step into create a poll. And this is a multi-step model. In this case, you want the user to first tell you where this poll should be sent. And this is something that uses the concept of context. So since the user clicked on this link trigger that opened this workflow that includes this model, you know that this happened within team platform with this, which is their team channel. You can pre-populate this for the user so they can save that step. If they want to remove that and change it to a different channel or add more, then they can do that as well. In this case, the user is guided through setting the prompt and then setting what type of answer they want from the users that take this poll. Then finally, they can get a preview and send it into the channel. We have two main ways of handling interactivity. First, we have that local handling that I talked about with the events going into your function and you're responding them by updating views, updating messages, and finally coming up with the final result of your function. We also have the concept of triggering new workflows within your buttons. So on the right, we have the result of creating a poll. First, the poll is sent to the team channel with a button for the users to take that poll. And at that point, that button should start workflows for each of those users because you want to distribute that action across all of them. The second one is the message that gets sent to the poll owner, in this case myself, because an instance of a poll was created and I might want to manage the life cycle around it. So I want to view it, I want to close it, or I want to view the results for it. Those are all different modular pieces of the workflow, and those should be handled separately from the function that sent this message when the poll was created, so that it can output that value and then finally close that workflow as well. So let's do a quick recap of everything we talked about. First, please join our Slack platform open beta and let us know how it goes. Start your journey by automating work by downloading our CLI, using our SDK to build workflows. Try first our Slack functions, try some interactive ones. And at that point, when you need more, write custom functions while keeping in mind the concepts of context, quick actions, modularity. Make them interactive using Blockade. Use all of those elements to build messages or build modals, and keep in mind when you want to come to an output and when you want to start a new workflow. And then finally, remix those functions. Allow others to also use them and remix them. And that can happen in code as well as by business users using our workflow builder. So I want to thank you all for your time with me today. I want to give you some more resources for our Slack developer open beta. We have documentation, we have tutorials. So please go to api.slack.com/future for learning more.